Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man. Some of you may be familiar with the social media site called X, formerly known as Twitter, and some of you may be active users on it, or more likely, were active users once upon a time. You see, viewer, Twitter is a website that had a problem once upon a time. That problem was the selective enforcement of its terms of service against conservative voices, up to and including the President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. And if you read the Twitter files, you know why this bias occurred. Political lobby groups and deep state organizations like the FBI and CIA paid Twitter off to be selective in their enforcement, until it was bought by one Elon Musk. Because Musk leaned more libertarian, many, including myself, thought this would be a good sign of things to come and that things were changing for the better. Hoo boy, were we ever wrong. Instead, he changed the name of the website, fired the entire moderation team to be replaced by AI, and put a corporate boomer at the helm. And that has led to the blue check mark, which was once a sign of privileged status, to remain a sign of privileged status that one can buy into, which has allowed the worst kinds of people to have the loudest voice on the platform. Far-left communists, as they were before, and now, other left Nazi cunts. What was supposed to be a sign that Twitter was changing for the better, no longer being a left-wing echo chamber, has become the beginning of the end of how Twitter became an echo chamber for both the far left and the so-called far right. As if Elon's goal was to take the worst parts of Reddit and 4chan's poll board, make it into a website, and then monetize it. And that is the last thing that any of us wanted. While it was true that Twitter was not doing well financially, and Elon Musk ultimately wants to turn a profit, he is going about it in the worst possible way, by appealing to the lowest common denominator and creating what is turning out to be the second coming of internet blood sports. And the worst part is you can't even do anything about the offending accounts anymore. Report someone for saying Jews should be ostracized, and they will come back and tell you to pound sand. Or worse, lie to your fucking face about doing something, and the tweet and tweeter are both still alive and active. Never mind that the people retweeting it as well are still allowed to exist on the platform. And never mind that even with Elon knowing that Destiny and Hassan Piker's rhetoric is what led to the murder of Charlie Kirk, both are still allowed on the platform, both being equally as vile as the neo-Nazi movement, ethno-nationalists, and their supporters like Brown Spoon and Aiden Paladin. With both groups having active body counts, now as of writing, with a white nationalist in Mexico having shot people at one of the old Mayan pyramids. Or maybe it was Aztec. The point is, he's a Mexican who preaches Nazi rhetoric and shoots people. All he needs now is to be caught in a gay orgy, and Nick Fuentes will have found his soulmate. Twitter, for better or worse, was the digital town square. This isn't just me saying this. Elon himself said it when he bought the damn website to do what he was gonna do. And part of being a town square is an implied level of civility enforced. After all, freedom of speech doesn't mean a right to commit lawless anarchy and create a Mad Max state. The town square has a set of public rules that are equally enforced. If you go on a violent tirade against the Jews, the police will take you away in handcuffs, the same way they would if you went on a violent tirade against the whites and the billionaires, because incitement is not free speech, and it never has been. We were promised a rose garden and sold a primrose path to the digital town square. But what we were delivered more resembles the monkey house at the zoo, with a gang of violent chimpanzees flinging their feces at each other and at zoo patrons.
That's racist!
Believe me, it's not. I make the chimp analogy mostly about the poltards, who ironically are more brown than the Redditors and communists who would complain and... Look, we're getting off topic. We were promised a digital town square with equal enforcement of the terms of service. What we got is an expansion of the privileged class that we didn't like to now include the so-called far-right retards to be in that protected class alongside the far-left retards. And with the deaths of the victims of the Bondi Beach massacre, the Mayan pyramid shooting, the synagogue attacks, Charlie Kirk, the multiple assassination attempts on Donald Trump, the Israeli embassy staffers, and so on, we are seeing the results of this freedom of speech, not freedom of reach mentality. It leads to dead bodies as the results of stochastic terrorist tactics. I've gotten a few questions about what that term means, and to define it quickly, Stochastic terrorism is when one demonizes a group, say the Jews, whites, CEOs, etc., so much that it eventually leads to someone taking it upon themselves to bring harm to the targeted group or targeted individual in the case of Charlie Kirk. It's a tactic the far left have been using for years. In fact, the mainstream media have, and at least hopefully, inadvertently done it through the glamorization of school shootings. So when Destiny and Hassan were saying how they wanted to see people, quote, punch a Nazi and bring harm to right-wing speakers like Charlie Kirk, or wish someone would shoot at Donald Trump during his candidacy in the 2024 election, and then acted like they were surprised such things happened, that was an act. This was the exact thing they were trying to fucking get, and deep down they were very happy. In George Orwell's 1984, this was called 2 Minutes of Hate, and it's the same basic principle. Working the masses up into a lather over a figure you want to be taken care of and letting nature take its course, but deny responsibility when the hammer does fall. Oh, it's not my responsibility that some nutjob took my rhetoric seriously, that sort of thing. And Hassan and Destiny aren't alone, as figures like Nick Fuentes, Sneeko, and Aiden Paladin are doing the same thing, but towards the Jews. Well, Hassan does it towards the Jews as well, but he dresses it up as Zionists. Funny how both groups of extremist retards always hate on the Jews. Almost like the Bible warned us about the followers of the Antichrist will be those who turn against Israel. And Elon Musk and Twitter, by allowing this to take place despite being smart enough to know what's happening, is bad enough, but they are also monetizing it as well. Blood money for allowing the most vile extremists of any faction to have a platform to rally potential shooters into killing their enemies is not what we signed up for. We, particularly as Americans, deserve better than this blatantly anti-American platform filled with anti-patriotic dogma being shielded by a deliberately misguided interpretation of what our First Amendment is supposed to protect. The Founding Fathers would not approve of allowing the enemies of the United States free rein to incite treason against this nation and what it represents. In fact, during Washington's own administration, there were debates on what to do about the French revolutionaries and Haitian rebels who were using American printing companies to radicalize American citizens and bonded slaves into turning the country into an expansion of their revolutionary goals, which led to the Alien and Sedition Acts signed into law by John Adams after Washington's second term. Now, we have Russian, Qatari, Iranian, Pakistani, and Chinese enemies doing the same thing with no pushback. Why? Because the mainstream media doesn't care, and neither does Elon Musk or Twitter. It's all about making money for them at the end of the day. Which brings me back to my invocation of blood money. No surprise that the South African has no issues getting a blood-soaked dollar. But we shouldn't have to rely on state power to do anything about this. Those who are fed up with Twitter's nonsense need to make their voices heard one way or another. Hashtag campaigns on the platform itself are a start, as well as writing petitions addressed to Elon Musk and the current CEO of Twitter, or X, or whatever they want to call themselves. Spreading this video around wouldn't hurt either. Sure, it's selfish of me to ask for an uptick in views over the issue, but people need to know that they're not alone. There are other people like you who are fed up seeing the digital town square being left to rot and decay in the name of monetizing the loudest, most extremist voices. The company needs to see a firm, vocal, and steady pushback against its policies, or no change will ever be enacted. And this isn't a left versus right issue, so even if you're a shit lib or a rightoid, don't be afraid to reach across the aisle, feel the waters, and see if we can, for once in our terminally online lives, agree on something. It currently benefits nobody to allow things to remain as they are, but a return to form of enforced terms of service with no hands on the scales of justice that leads to equal enforcement regardless of political leanings is something that everyone can agree on. Civility hinges on the rules being enforced fairly, after all. While the current state of things is an equal and opposite reaction to the way Twitter was weighed down on one side over the other for so long, that reaction is leading to even more moderates being harassed and harmed in the process, as you cannot even search trends anymore without seeing loudmouth retards spouting off at the hip about the Jews or the Zionists constantly, and it needs to fucking stop. Elon Musk, your way of doing things has led to this, and the blood of those killed due to those being radicalized via X are on your hands, including Charlie Kirk. You need to do the responsible thing and hire an experienced, yet unbiased moderation team rather than just two guys in a bag of chips. Only then will the digital town square be the idyllic paradise it's supposed to be, and not the graffiti and shit-covered mess it is now. This isn't about the money. This is about building a better future for the American people. And non-Americans too, I guess, but mostly about making a website that isn't either a den of hate or a den of degeneracy as seen with Blue Sky's child porn problems. Enough is enough. But that's all I got on this issue for now. I doubt it'll go away anytime soon, but I am too fed up to keep my mouth shut any longer. And if you are as well, be sure to talk about it in the comments. This has been the Koopa Man. Share this video with anyone you believe is tired of the anarchical hellscape that Twitter has turned into, and let's see what we can do about it. And until next time, game on.